I'm really excited to be here to talk to you a little bit about compliance and risk. I just joined the ScalePad family. I can claim 21 of those experience years in tech, 15 of those in cybersecurity. And really that plays well into the challenge that we're speaking about here, which is improving the security posture for you and your clients. This is something that we're hearing directly from you, and it's top of mind in the industry. It's top of mind for you as our MSPs as well. So I just attended 4 conferences. I've seen sessions at least anywhere from a dozen to a few on each of those conferences. And when I've had the opportunity to speak to you at the booth, at the ScalePad booth, at least 1 in 3 visitors that are coming to the booth are expressing interest in learning more about cyber and compliance. So getting into the material here, I'll spend the next 8 minutes going over the cybersecurity compliance landscape. How did we get here? What's happening in the industry? What's the impact to you and your business? And also, what's the business opportunity for you? So some critical challenges that we're hearing from you as the MSP. If this is new to you, clients are maybe asking you for, and they need cybersecurity and compliance, and you're asking us, well, now what? What do I do with this? If you already offer this service, maybe you have a vCSO offering, you're now wondering, how do I scale this service out to all my clients? How do I get past Excel spreadsheets and Word docs and actually offer a solution, maybe a platform? And how do I capitalize on the compliance wave that's coming? You see it coming. CMMC is a great example. You've been hearing about it. You're seeing it at throughout the industry. What can you do about that? Just a brief history of ControlMap here. ControlMap was founded by Paul Tandon in 2019. I joined up in 2020, and then we brought the product to market with a few others in 2021. What we saw happening here is that we saw virtual CISOs, we saw security officers, we saw the MSP market starting to adopt this. And so to take this further and deeper into the market, we partnered with top-down investment, and we were eventually joined forces with ScalePad here this last year. So looking at the cybersecurity landscape, what's driving these conversations still is the whole breach story. Breaches are up 68% year over year across the industries that MSPs serve. And if you were to Google how many breaches there are daily, the answer you'll get back is 2,200. And that is way too many breaches. We can do better. That is over 1 per minute. I like this visualization. This is a timeline chart of the headliner breaches, the really large ones. The larger the bubble here, the larger the breach. So these are some really big ones, tens of millions of records breached, like Facebook, for instance. And you can see this bubble chart's very full. This is the last few years that we're looking at. But as we go down and scroll down on the chart here, I'm going to go back about 7 years. Look at how those bubbles kind of start to dissipate. There's less of them. If I was to go back one more chart, about 5 more years, there would only be a handful of bubbles on there, a handful of breaches. Now, does that mean that we were safer 15 years ago from breach than we are today? Probably, actually. We have more security controls. We have more security solutions than ever. But the risk was less back then. And just illustrating this in our own real world here, seatbelts is a great example. It's a safety device we use every day. But it's hard to remember that there was a time, or hard to imagine, for those of us not from this era, that there was a time when seatbelts didn't exist. In the 1950s is when seatbelts were actually invented, and they weren't required until 1968. And it wasn't until 1986 that we were even required to wear those seatbelts. Does that mean that it wasn't a good idea in the 1970s to wear them? Could we have prevented a lot of accident and injury? Absolutely. And if you go back a little bit further, like thinking about the 1910s, 1920s, they didn't have seatbelts, but I would argue they were safer because there was just less accidents, there was less cars, they weren't going as fast. The same story is playing out right now in the breach story, and those breaches are the auto accidents that are happening in our businesses. And what's happening is, in the compliance landscape, industry and governments have decided that this is a best practice for us to try to stay safe. We want to save our businesses, just like we want to save lives with seatbelts. We're trying to save business lives here and trying to prevent breaches. So we're being led by financial services and healthcare. They've taken the lead for about the last decade. But this is now rolling into just about every industry, as you can see here. And this is by no means exhaustive. I mean, there is so many more industries, and you'll see how many we support here in a minute. But on the government side, I mean, we're seeing the states involved. We're seeing the federal governments involved, the EU, Australia, UK, Canada, and all these other countries are following along. So what's happening here with this story is that regulation and requirements are moving upward, and they're moving upward very aggressively. But that also opens a huge business opportunity for you as the MSP, for those that are working in the IT space already, to offer security offerings to satisfy this. So just to step back here on compliance definition, this is my fourth grade definition. Best practices, these are good ideas written down. Think of those seatbelts. It was a good idea to wear them in the 70s, but we had to make a rule because people weren't doing it enough. So in compliance, these best practices turn into requirements. That's all it is. And the impact of cybersecurity compliance, what it can have in a positive on both the industry, the world, your business, is boosting security posture. These are just, again, best practices. You reduce risk. It helps you stay current with laws and regulations, fulfill contract obligations. For the CMMC side of the world, it's already part of your contract. If you're receiving any kind of federal funds for services offered, you are required to fulfill CMMC, so that's already an obligation. It also opens the door to move up market, to grow new business, and to retain your existing customers. It's a way to differentiate yourself. And this, again, is a best practice. This is a part of defense in depth. This is a layered approach to security. We've all agreed this is a best practice for security. Policies, procedures, awareness at the top there, that is foundational. It encompasses everything that you do. It's where you start, and then you work through the rest of the layers of your tech stack. Another big business driver is cyber insurance. So we know insurance premiums are going up. However, there's an opportunity to reduce those premiums when you can demonstrate your security posture. And so by applying a framework, demonstrating that security posture, typically at CIS or NIST CSF, you can actually reduce those premiums and also just qualify for insurance in the first place. These are a look at some of those controls that cyber insurance is looking at. These align, again, with CIS or NIST CSF. I just wanted to show these because they're likely already services that you're providing. Maybe you're missing one or two, but you're already on the road there to compliance. It's just taking the next step in maturity to get there. So what does it mean to you as an MSP? First, take a step to become compliant yourself, understand the security involved, and then you'll be in a place to help your customers to be secure and comply. So this does mean different things to different sizes of businesses. For the emerging MSP, this is the smaller MSP, I would encourage you just to start with reviewing your client base, understand what your clients need, what compliance services that they need. Ask if you're positioned to help. If you're not, maybe get some help to do so. And then look at what security services that you're missing in your stack. For the growth MSPs, these are the ones that are already starting to offer this service. They're scoping those vCSO services in, they're aligning them with the framework, and they're starting to specialize and narrow in on the frameworks and the industries that they're going to serve. And the scaling in the enterprise MSPs, these top 1,000 MSPs, they're already doing this. At this point, they're complying, they're hiring, they're getting compliant themselves to move up market, and they're mapping those vCSO services to their compliance frameworks. So what is ControlMap and how can we help? So ControlMap is that platform that helps you get there. It is the control center, the cybersecurity compliance operations center for your vCSO operations. We take an automation-first approach. We're multi-client, we're multi-framework, and we're built for the MSP. We support 35 frameworks across industries and countries, and we also are cross-mapped to each other. So for instance, when you roll out one framework, we have it cross-mapped together so that you're already about 80% complete. You don't have to redo that work. That automation-first approach that I mentioned, we hook into a number of different platforms. Azure, AWS are great examples. We do compliance checks across them. We look at the assets, and we can produce the risk score for those. So this is a look of how we help you get from the start of your compliance journey all the way to the end and then keep that recurring year in, year out. We integrate with your systems. We have the compliance frameworks for all the industries. We have pre-built templates, pre-built compliance checks, and we cross-map all those controls together. And what does it mean for you, for your MSP, for your MSSP, the vCSO security consultants? Well, we help you offer that compliance as a service solution through our platform, help you conduct those risk assessments, install the necessary, well, you can view those, what you're missing in your cybersecurity stack and then go off and help install those and become your client's vCSO. And when you think about being the client's vCSO, this is a very attractive offering. It's sticky, it's recurring revenue. You help your clients improve their security posture. And we're seeing that this is being offered anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 a month and higher depending on the service. And our software, of course, is quite cost effective compared to the opportunity there. So a quick sneak peek. We are working on integrating Lifecycle Manager and ControlMap together. Think about that same approach to the AWS and Azure. Will be hooked in to look at the asset inventory, perform compliance checks, do the risk scoring. And I just want to share this awesome customer case study here. This customer, Plus One Technology, shared with us that they basically created a short video explaining FTC safeguards, which is due out this month, that the deadline was approaching, what it was. And then what happened is they sold way more compliance as a service than they expected. They came to ControlMap to fulfill that, and they're on their way. It was a really successful story here. So thank you so much for your time looking at cybersecurity. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Aaron Kennedy. He is the GM with Cognition 360.